Hey everybody, it's Joanna, and I have an amazing guest today who I met at Center for Spiritual Living in Grants Pass. She's super awesome. And Alyssa, I'm going to let you introduce yourself to all these amazing people, and I'd love for you to tell them about your work in the world and what you're doing.
Okay, thanks, Joanna. I appreciate it. It's awesome to be here. My name's Alyssa Warren Wood, and I was born and raised in Grants Pass, where the Rogue River flows. And I started river guiding when I was about 15 years old. And through that very early line of work, I developed a really strong passion for the river, connecting people with it. And I got to stay with this small family company that I started with for 4 years, and then kind of graduated down to what we call the wild and scenic lower section of the Rogue River, which is a multi-day trip. And I started working for a company called Oars. And I worked with them for 10 years. And through that work, I really developed a relationship with the river and with connecting people to the river. And kind of subconsciously, I developed a process before every trip that I kept pretty personal to myself, but asking the river for permission to travel with her, with whatever new group of people that we were taking downstream, and asking permission and giving thanks for bringing us all together and getting to be outside in nature and experience the wilderness in miraculous ways. And I just poured so much love into the river because she was constantly pouring into me and into my life. And then I was a river guide for it's been about 18 or 19 years now. I started my own rafting company in 2018. And then life kind of happened, and that left me moving towards a different flow. And I ended up in Alaska working on a glacier with sled dogs.
Nice.
And so another form of water, but this time it was ice. And that opportunity in my life gave me some real serious time for pause and reflection. And I started to understand more about what I was doing when I would ask the river for permission or offer a blessing of gratitude before we would go on the water. And I started to realize what I'd like to call my soul calling, my soul mission, and that I'm here to bless the waters. And yeah, please. um, And yeah, so I kind of through meditation and downloads, I got different pieces of what that might look like for me. And it's still definitely a mental process that I'm unraveling because I have, as we all do, a lot of programming about what you should do and the direction that you should go, or what life and career is supposed to look like. And I've deviated from that my whole life. So it
I,
hasn't been, it
I
hasn't
hear
been,
that.
yeah, it's been an interesting internal process and external in communicating with different people that are in my life. But for a long time, I have just been kind of guided to travel and bless the waters. And what that looks like, it's really simple. It's just telling the water wherever you are, thank you. You know, water is life. Without water, life would not exist on planet Earth. We would not exist. Our human bodies are 70% at minimum water, if not upwards of 80, 90%. And there's more water molecules in our bodies than there are stars in the sky. So that's kind of an amazing visual if you really start to consider that. So I just thought everywhere I go, I can tell the water thank you for the life within it and the life without it and the life that it provides and has sustained from the beginning of time. And that process has kind of developed for me in different ways as I've begun to embrace it. But that's what I have discovered, really, that I'm here to do, and that I've really started to try and embrace and share with others, because it's something that we can all do, and it can be really powerful.
Absolutely. And there's been so much research done. Dr. Moto was doing blessing water and then freezing the crystals with different I think the water was in different vials with words on them, or they would pray over it, and it did so many amazing things to the water, and it has consciousness. And so you going out there in the world are blessing all of these waters all over the world and connecting them all. That's amazing. Ooh, tell them a little bit about your journey, about how you collected the waters and what you did. I know a little bit about it, but there's so much more. Can you tell us about what happened? Like what you did this summer and how that
Yeah,
worked out?
I'd just like to touch on really quick Dr. Masaru Emoto. Uh,
Yes.
I first learned about him through Grandma Agnes Baker Pilgrim.
Mm.
And Grandma Aggie was the last living Tequilma elder of the Rogue Valley. Wonderful woman. She traveled the world telling people that we're all water babies. We all come from water and we all go back to water, and that water is life. And she was a voice for the voiceless. And she really inspired me. And she met with Dr. Masaru Emoto, and he he gave her a necklace of a water crystal in it. And she spoke about that at one of the last events that she spoke at, where I got to see her in person. And when I was in Alaska, I found his book and started doing a little more research about what he was proving scientifically, because it was something that I've always known, um, just as a knowing. Like, I've always known that water is intelligent and that water is a conscious. And I know it's because of how much time I've spent in, on, and around the water. I've spent a lot of time listening and talking and witnessing water's reaction to me. So I guess my journey this summer, it actually was inspired by my dog, Chessie. She was a Chesapeake Bay Retriever, and she passed away from lymphoma in May of this year. She made it to almost 15 years old. And I always told her that I wanted to take her to the Chesapeake Bay. There was something inside me that I thought would be just really awesome about taking her to her homelands, where her breed kind of was named after. And I didn't get to do that with her in the body that she was here in this life with me. But after she passed, well, when she was diagnosed with the cancer, the vet told me, I think she's got maybe 3 weeks. And my immediate thought was, that's enough time to get to the Chesapeake Bay. And then it was like, well, how am I going to do that? Life, money, etc., transportation. And it wasn't actually what I think Chessie wanted. I think Chessie wanted to be at home and spend time with her favorite people. So we did that instead. And then when she left, I thought, well, I could go now. It's never too late. And she has been and was very quietly and not so quietly nudging me to do that journey. And it was another incredible experience in my life of how, like, the transition of water and the different forms it takes. Because Chessie, she was the ultimate water dog. She loved the river. And so anytime I would go to the water, she would show up in one form or another and just poke, like, Mom, you gotta go. You gotta go to the Chesapeake Bay. So I decided that I was going to do that with her ashes and take her in a different form over there. And along the way, I was going to stop at every major water body in the US to collect some water. This is my little vessel of waters that I've collected from all over the world now. It started long before this journey, but this had a very specific destination, if you will. Um, but the Mississippi River, the Hudson River, and the Great Lakes were kind of the main ones on that list. And then that started to grow: the Colorado River, the Snake River, the Missouri River, and then, of course, the Atlantic Ocean once I got over to the East Coast, and final destination, if you will, being on the Chesapeake Bay. So I started my journey in Colorado, and I spent about a month in Colorado going all around the state, visiting different creeks and lakes and rivers, and collecting the water. And when I get to a body of water, I will do a blessing, tell it thank you, I love you, and sometimes I will offer it a gift. A traditional offering that I have been taught is a pinch of tobacco. And I've been taught that by giving from my left side with my left hand, it's connected to my heart. Mm-hmm. And so it just kind of brings the intention really consciously into that heart space and focuses everything in coming from the heart rather than the head. And so just a few deep breaths and a pinch of tobacco. And traditionally, tobacco was grown from Mother Earth, from the land. And then when it's smoked, the prayers are carried into the heavens. So it is a plant that connects the heavens with the earth and vice versa. So traditionally, it's a very powerful symbol. So that's typically what I will give to a body of water. But if I don't have that for one reason or another, I always have stones in my pockets or in my car. And so another offering that I like to give is a rock. And a rock not from that place where I am, but a rock from somewhere that I've been. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it can be anything. Like, if there have been many times where I've shown up and I don't have anything, and I'm like, shoot, I don't have anything to give. And then I remember my own personal attention and intention and love is more than enough. So I'll sit with that body of water. Maybe I'll sing it a song, give it an offering, say a little blessing, and then I'll take my water and I'll offer water that I've collected beforehand to the body of water that I'm at, and say that I'm offering it with prayers of love and gratitude for healing, for all the life within it and without it, above it and below it. And then I'll sit and ask the water if I can collect water from that body of water into my bottle. And most often I get a very reassuring, powerful, unquestionable yes. And I'll just scoop up just a couple of drops of water into my bottle. And there have been a few times, handful of times, where I've felt a no, that the water's saying no. And so I'll kind of sit with that and check in to be sure that that's not me in my head. And I will get it again. And I've kind of asked why that is. And I don't understand it fully yet, but I feel that the answer I've gotten is that the water is it's too polluted, or there's something going on it with the health of the water that it doesn't yet want to combine with the waters in my jar. And so I just give some water, offering the blessings from the water to that body. And that can be super powerful. So I did that from Colorado, and then I headed north through Nebraska into South Dakota, stopped at the Big Sioux River, and then I headed up to the Great Lakes. And I connected all 5 Great Lakes with each other. And that was super powerful. I started at Lake Superior, headed down to Lake Michigan, then went up to Lake Huron, and then Lake Erie, and then finished in Canada in Lake Ontario. And that was really, really, I've never been to the Great Lakes before. and they are really great. They are absolutely freshwater oceans. So that was a very powerful experience. And then I headed down and I got to go to the Mississippi River where I actually got to pull a kayak out and paddle, which is another form of water blessing. Swimming or paddling or playing in or on or around the water is absolutely one of the best forms of blessings you can do with the water because you're offering, childlike joy and play. And that's very powerful. And I made it to the Hudson River in New York and several other smaller bodies of water. I know that I visited over 100 different bodies of water just on my journey over there. And then I made it to the Atlantic Ocean in New Jersey. And just as I was walking over the knoll of the beach, there was a pod of dolphins
Whoa.
that came swimming up and they were jumping out. And it was just amazing to, my first experience at seeing the Atlantic Ocean. Here's this pod of dolphins saying, "Hi, Alyssa." That's how I took it anyway. And collected some water there, swam in the ocean, and then I did a ceremony with a drum, and I set up a little crystal grid and took some real time to set intention and be present in the space that I was at. And I did it at a spot where the Potomac River flows into the Chesapeake Bay. So the Potomac River has a lot of history behind it. It's where John Smith and his crews came upstream, and there were quite a few Civil War battles and other things going on there energetically. So it was really powerful and a really beautiful place for a ceremony. And on the same day, at the same time that I held my ceremony with myself and the waters, a group of sisters here in Oregon held a ceremony at Tillamook Falls on the Rogue River. And they had a water bowl where they poured all the waters that they brought, and I poured all the waters that I had in my water bowl. And our intention was to bridge the waters and the consciousness from West Coast to East Coast. Mm-hmm. And just kind of holding a vision of what the world might look like if we could all recognize the water that we drive on the bridge over every day, or the creek outside the house, or even simply, yet not so simply, the water in our glass that hopefully we drink every morning or every night or at least once a day, and that we recognize consciously that this is life. And it's a conscious, intelligent substance that is listening and soaking up the energy, the words, the vibrations that we put out. And if we can take a moment to tap into our heart space and connect our heads to our hearts. Grandma Aggie said, the greatest distance in the world is the 14 inches between our heads and our hearts. Mm. And when we can bridge that space, it can be extremely powerful. So if we just take a moment and recognize the water and the sacredness of it and breathe in and just say, thank you so much for the life that you offer and that you sustain for me and all the world. And I love you. And then take a sip. Not only is that reprogramming the water itself, but then if we're taking that in, we're reprogramming ourselves to some extent. And this is the research that so many water researchers that I think Masaru Emoto kind of started this ripple. And there are several other water researchers right now. Beta Austin from New Zealand is one of my favorite ones to see what she's doing. She just wrote a book called The Living Language of Water. And she has 10 to 15 years of studies to prove the responsive consciousness of water. And it's super powerful to see. And for someone that's very scientifically minded, it's really helpful to see the photos and the constant supporting evidence that she provides to show that doing that, saying thank you to the water, really does change actually the structure of it. So super powerful stuff. Very
That's
exciting.
wow, that's amazing. Do you have any, I mean, your journey is a superhero amazing journey anyway, and it seems so healing and blessed. Was there any moment in time that kind of just stood out to you, like a magical moment of you with the water?
There's many
I know,
actually. The
right?
dolphins was definitely one of those. You know, the one that's coming up is less magical. It actually feels kind of in the opposite spectrum. But um, I had this moment when I got to the Illinois River and I was heading back from my journey. And you know, when you get to your journey, the destination of your journey, whatever that is, whether it's a project you're working on and you finish the project, or a place you're going and you get there, or whatever that looks like in life as far as what you're going after, and then you get there. The ceremony that I did at the Chesapeake Bay was beautiful. It was extremely powerful. And then I woke up the next day kind of feeling like it was the day after Christmas. Like, now what? You know, I achieved what I set out to do. So what now? You know, my life didn't change in any big way. Like there was no, um, I don't know, no like tangible expression of like, you made it, Alyssa. You know, it was
Right.
very much an internal experience. And I didn't know anybody traveling across the US, but one friend that I know in Oregon would lead me to a friend in Canada, and then I would go meet them, and that friend would say, "Hey, I have connections in Connecticut." And then going and visiting with them, "Oh, where are you going? Are you going to the Chesapeake Bay? I have friends that live there." So I met several angels, if you will, along the way that housed me and fed me and took good care of me. So there were tiny pots of gold, if you will, along my whole journey. But I did have this experience afterwards that I was like, okay, like, what do I do now? And I woke up, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 days after I did the ceremony at the Chesapeake Bay, and I decided it's time to go back west. It's time to head back home. And so I stopped at the Illinois River along the way, and I got there and it was very, very dirty. There were dead fish on the bank. There was a ton of trash at the boat ramp that I was at. And the Illinois River is very wide and very large. And it looked like a highway. There were all of these huge barges on the water. And I had this moment of seeing the river as being used and abused. And it was being used as a tool, a highway, a thoroughfare to transport goods, whatever they may be, on these giant barges with what looked like to me no consideration for the life within it or without it. And I just got this really sick feeling in my stomach and my heart, and got really negative in my mind. And I was just like, what's the point? You know, like, how does a half an hour of me stopping at this body of water and telling it, thank you, I love you, how is that going to change what's going on here? Because this is one itty bitty spot on the Illinois River that is a vast river. And I know this is happening all along it. And then at that point I'd visited over 100 bodies of water. So considering how many bodies of water are in the world, like, oh my gosh, how can I possibly get to all of them? And if I can only spend a half an hour at each one, like, how is that going to make a difference? And I just kind of did this plummet of like, I don't matter. I'm so small. My little moment of gratitude isn't going to change anything. The fish are dying. You know, it was a bummer. And I was like talking myself through it, like listening to the feelings that were coming up. Like, yeah, it is really sad. And I believe that what I do matters. I believe that the science is proving, Veda Austin has proved that one drop of blessed water put into tap water straight out of the sink actually physically changes the structure of the water.
Mhm.
And you can see that, and so that's very powerful. So I'm understanding that what I do matters. It does make a difference, and if more of us can do it, it's going to amplify the energy, and it can make a real shift, I believe, in what is happening to our waters all over the world. um, but then I had this moment of like, okay, so what if it doesn't matter? Like, what if what I'm doing really doesn't change anything? What am I going to do? Am I going to stop? Am I going to like just, sit back and watch it all unfold and not do anything? And it was like, no, like even if it doesn't make the difference that I think it may make in my mind and my heart, I still want to try. I still want to show up for these rivers that haven't been seen for so long, or these lakes or the oceans. And I still want to put my love and gratitude towards them and tell them thank you and see them for the sacred beings that they are. And in that moment, the osprey is a bird that is very well known here on the Rogue, in the Rogue Valley. And when I rafted the river, they were always there in very special moments and also in dark moments. And I see the osprey as like a beacon of light. I've seen so many times where a bald eagle is going after a baby goose and the osprey swoops in and saves the day and scares the eagle off and protects the goose. And so I've got this beautiful association with the osprey. And in this moment where I realized, even if it's not making the difference I think it is, I'm still going to try, and I'm still going to show up, and I'm still going to give my love and gratitude. And this osprey flew over my head and circled right above me. And like, that was affirmation. Like, yeah, you better, because we're still here, and we need people like that to show up and to tell the water that we get our fish from, thank you, and I love you. And so that was a pretty magical moment, and that was
Yeah,
one to choose from out of many.
that's amazing. Yeah, and I think we all feel that way sometimes. Like, am I really making a difference? Is what I'm doing in the world making any sort of difference? And we've we've gotten so far away from our connection to nature. And when we connect back in, I think nature is so excited that someone is tapped in again, with our life of screens and distractions. When we go back out to nature, I think nature really does want to connect with us. And maybe some of us are like, oh no, nature's going to be mad at us for what we've been doing. But really, as we tune in, it feels just so loving and supportive and thankful. I think we're both thankful, us and nature, of our connection when we can connect back in. I remember I was snorkeling in Hawaii, in Maui, and there was a sea turtle, and the sea turtle like swam up to me and was showing me the garbage that was in the water, and it was like, deal with this, deal with this. Look at all this stuff you have figured out. And I was like, oh no, I'm so sorry. But isn't that the way? It's nature using us to help fix itself,
Yeah,
right?
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
super powerful. That's what's kept me going, honestly, is nature and the animals showing up and saying, I hear you.
Yeah.
And I know you don't necessarily see all the time that we hear you, or that, you're making the ripple effect that you hope that you are. but they will show up when I need them the most and show me that that's true. And it's absolutely miraculous.
Right.
Truly.
Right. Yeah. Because we're nature. When it comes down to it, maybe we have fancy stuff, but we are nature. We're animals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we're animals. We have a little more capacity to, I think, cause more chaos, but we can also, cause the healing. So thankful for you and all this work that you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's
An honor and a privilege for
right.
sure. I really enjoy what I do.
Yeah. So for the people out there who think, oh, well, Alyssa's special, like she has special superpowers and I couldn't do what she does. Who am I to go bless water or whatever? What would you say to average regular person who's like, oh, she's just a superhero and I'm just me. How would you
I would say I too have felt that way.
yeah.
And, none of us are average unless that's the story we're telling ourselves. And, we all have our own unique special gifts. And we're all here together because we're supposed to share them with each other. And one of my favorite creation stories that I used to tell on the river all the time was that, the world cannot shine in the way that it's meant to if we're not sharing our gifts with one another. And so you are a water baby, Joanna. Every single person listening to this, I will remind you of Grandma Aggie's words. This was a wise woman, and she taught that we are all water babies. It's undeniable. We come from water in the womb, and our bodies are made up of at least 70% water, again, if not more, upwards of 90. When we're born, we're around like 98, 99% water. And we go back to the water, and we're still understanding that, like, we really only know of the three: liquid, solid, and vapor phases of water. There's a fourth one that Veda Austin and George Pollock are discovering that's like a gel state. And there are actually seven phases of water. So there are three that we absolutely know nothing about.
Oh.
And there's consideration that when we die, we go into one of those that we know nothing about. And so that we're still here. And this is all being discovered, and there's so much more information to come out of it. But I would say to all of us, all of you, that, you can do it. You can do what I do. Not exactly the way I do it, because I'm me, uniquely me, and you're you, uniquely you. But there's no right or wrong way. And it took me a long time to really understand that. I was afraid to bless the water because I didn't want to do it wrong. I didn't want to disrespect anyone. I didn't want to step on anyone's toes or get into something that I didn't fully understand. And when I got out of my head and I bridged that 14 inches with my heart, I realized that the only right way or versus wrong way is to be conscious and centered in my heart. And if I'm coming from a place of love and I'm offering an intention of love, I can't go wrong. And so just reminding everyone that, when you're thinking about yourself as average, or this person's more special than me, or they have better gifts, or they're a superhero, that's business up here in our heads. That's not coming from our hearts. And so when we can take some deep breaths and ground ourselves in the earth, take our shoes off maybe, and find that heart space, that's when we know, hey, I'm a superhero too,
Mm-hmm.
and what I do does matter. And, you can just offer, like I said, there's no right or wrong way. So for you going to bless the water is taking your stand up paddleboard out, good on you, like that's the way to do it. If it's taking your dog to the river and letting them splash and play, good on you. That's it. Throwing rocks in the river, and really any engagement if it's from a place of love, is blessing the water. And then if you can bring in the mental part and consider consciously, hey, this is a sacred being that offers this whole valley life. I'm going to tell it thank you in whatever way feels right for you. You're doing the same thing I'm doing. I just am like, I don't know. It just has been very clear to me and loud in my head that that's what I need to do and show up for every day.
Mm-hmm.
And for many, many years, I pushed that away because I didn't understand the how. How is that going to make me money? Or how is that going to support my life? Or how is that going to move me through? And I still don't understand the how. But I have gotten out of my own way in trying to understand. And I'm just embracing this calling that has been with me and around me subconsciously for many years of my life, and is now like, wake up, Alyssa, it's time, you know?
Right.
So hence being here with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And I think when we embrace what our life's purpose is, it unlocks that for everyone else. And so thank you so much for embracing your purpose and doing what you were called to do, because that unlocks, I think, a next level for a lot of people that are like, oh, wait a minute, like I have this weird thing that I like to do. Maybe I should just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just like to add, if you hear rocks talk to you, if you hear trees talk to you, you're not going crazy. It's very real. And that can be a hard thing because a lot of us don't talk about that. I didn't talk about that for years because when I did, it was like, oh boy, Alyssa. And so, engaging in what you feel comfortable in and what you hear and what you respond to, it's important to honor and acknowledge that because we all, like I said, have different gifts and different ways of connecting. So
yeah, well, my audience definitely gets it and will understand that. I remember I went out with some friends and we were sitting and just enjoying nature, and there were these rocks and I was kind of like tossing them from one part to another part back and forth. And my friend's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm throwing them a party. Like they just want to like move around. And so when you were talking about the rocks, I was like, oh yeah. Like I think what we don't understand is that rocks do like to sit in one place, but sometimes they like to travel around, and to bring a rock to a place where it's never been would be really fun for that rock.
yeah. I mean, imagine coming from, the shores of the Rogue River and going all the way to Lake Superior and the stories it can tell the other rocks. And then, hey, somebody picks it up one day and goes, this rock looks totally different than all the rest here. Where did this come from? And then it probably goes on another journey or gets plunked further in the water,
Mm-hmm. But
possibilities are endless.
right. And it wouldn't have been able to have that super vacation if it wasn't for, you moving from one place to another and doing all of that.
And I do try to check in with the rocks. I feel like those who want to stay where they're at are pretty clear about that.
Right.
They'll keep dropping out of your hand and you'll be like, hey, I like you. Why you do? And it's like, oh, you want to stay here. And they have other subtle or not so subtle ways of letting you know that I don't want to leave. And then other rocks that are up for the journey, they dive in your pants pockets without you even knowing.
I'm a big rock fan. I love collecting rocks, and I try not to collect all the rocks because all the rocks used to want to come with me, and I'm like, I can't have all of you.
Yeah.
I have to choose a couple.
Understand. Yeah, that's a dilemma for sure.
It is. And real fast about the trees. Yeah, trees have so much consciousness. I remember, and I try and like love on all the trees and let them know how thankful I am for them. But I remember this one it was the one and only time I came across a crabby tree because trees aren't usually crabby. And it was so mad that nobody paid attention to it. And there was so much angry energy, I guess, of the people that were cruising by, and it was just so crabby. And I just put my hand on the tree and I was like, I love you. Thank you for being here. Like I get it.
Yeah.
Humans can be super crabby and terrible sometimes. I'm like, but I love you and I want to tell you that I appreciate you. And it was like, all right.
Oh, I love that. That's so good. Yes. Yeah, totally. They do. Been
Right.
there.
Right. But it matters. It does
It
matter.
does matter for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And the water and the trees and people, all of us. I think there's not one being on the planet. Well, not only conscious beings that we think about, but even if you're nice to your car, if you're nice to your electronics, um, everything. Giving thanks, I think, helps with everything.
It does. Gratitude is the right attitude. And I think sometimes personally I can say it's hard for me. It was always so much easier for me to take my dog to the vet
Mm,
or to get acupuncture or do something that was going to help her if I saw her struggling at all than it was for me to spend that money on me
right.
or for me to think I need to take care of Alyssa, because we've been trained somehow or programmed somehow to not do that, to take care of everybody else and everything around us before we look at what we need for ourselves.
Right.
And so I think if we can begin to extend these words of loving affirmation and gratitude to those around us, the trees, the rocks, the water, then one day we'll look in the water and we'll see our own reflection. And we'll see that we're also doing that for ourselves. And we'll be able to slowly or maybe quite rapidly extend that love and gratitude to ourselves and for ourselves in such a more seamless way. And, I think that that's when we can wake up in the morning and say, thank you, Alyssa. I love you. Like, you're so special and sacred. And we're going to have such a great day today. That sets such a different tone for the day than many possibilities that could look different. And sometimes it's not easy to do that right away to ourselves. So if we can do that gradually to those things around us, and then we recognize maybe ourselves in that grumpy tree and or that dirty water or that rock that doesn't want to move. We recognize an aspect of ourselves in that other, and we realize, like, I'm that too, and I need the love that I gave that tree. And I just see it as being like when you cast a stone into the water and it sends out ripple after ripple after ripple.
Mhm.
It's a ripple effect that, when the ripple becomes large enough, it creates a wave. And what more does the world need than being washed in love and gratitude?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, if people want to know more about you and your work, or if they want to start doing the blessings and stuff like that, where can they find more information?
Well, I'm starting a website. I have the URL secured. It's blessthewaters.com,
Nice.
blessthewaters.com. I have not gotten the website up yet. I'm not a super techie person yet. I'm learning. And so it's been kind of a slow roll for me, but that's a work in progress. And in the meantime, I have an email, alyssacw90@gmail.com. And then you can find me on Facebook and Instagram, Alyssa Warren Wood. So there are a couple different, or they can reach out to you and you can.
I'm going to put all of your info in the show notes down below so people will be able to contact you, and then once your website's up and running, we'll just
Yeah, once that happens, then and it's Bless the Waters initiative. So Bless the Waters initiative is absolutely not just me. The goal of this website and this initiative is to bring any and everyone in that has ideas about how to bless the waters, or just something that they are doing that could fit in there, and bringing us all together as a community to create that ripple effect and then share that broader and wider in ways that, you know, the possibilities there are really infinite. So also stay tuned to how you can be involved and be a part of the initiative.
That's so great. Yay. Oh, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I really appreciate it. Your mission is so important, and I knew that everybody who knows me and would be excited to hear about your journey and your travels and know how to be a part of it. It's just again, just thank you for your work in the world, and thank you for following the call. Yeah.
Thank you, Anna. Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you everybody for listening, and it's been a real pleasure.
Yay. Thank you so much. And we will see you again next time. Please feel free if you have any questions for Alyssa, put them down below, or definitely message her on all of the apps. And thank you for coming, and we'll see you again next week. Thank
All
you.
right.
Bye-bye.
Let's
Of course. Oh, here we go.